Hi, welcome to part 2 of this project. I'm Ingrid Blackburn, and here is the transition that we created using the ink swipe technique and the color box stylus tool in the first video. I will link to that right here. So here's our scene, and here is the top piece with the snowflake cut out. You can see that I had this and I cut it out at this piece and this piece, the matching piece at the bottom. So we're going to actually glue these two parts together. And you're gonna wanna, isn't that amazing how that looks? It looks great, doesn't it? I love these Stampscapes stamps. So see how it was important that we had enough of the dark blue coming in there. And then we have our light source here kind of coming this way. We have our shadow. Notice that the shadow, I kept it going this way thinking that the light source was there rather than straight on. So now to continue with the sparkle, I'm going to add an edge of glue along here, and I'm going to add some glitter. What we'll do is we're going to have our sentiment here. We're going to add a little bit of these snowflakes and use a sparkly pigment ink just to kind of continue with the snowflake theme going on. So now we want to have a glittery edge to this, and I went ahead and did half already. So we're taking a 2A glue pen, and I need to do half at a time, only because if I were to go from this edge all the way to here, this would have been totally dry, and you won't have as much glitter stick there as you will down here. So you want to do this in 2 pieces, and we're just going to now add a very small little edge here. It's almost like giving you about 1/8 of an inch of glitter. And I have a piece of copy paper underneath because I'm going kind of off my edge here, and you don't want to get that onto your table surface. So and then once we have that, I'm just going to give it a second just so this part can catch up and dry a little. And then I'm just going to dip it into my Dazzling Diamonds, which is a really ultra fine glitter. This is the glitter by Stampin' Up. It's really a great glitter. I love it. Chunky would be cool too if you had some really chunky glitter. Or even glass beads. There's anything that you could add to this. But we're going for sparkle here because that's the theme. And look at that. That looks pretty awesome. Now I want to make sure to put my glitter away first so that I don't get glitter on everything. And now we have our card, and we're just going to take a look to see how this looks. So get that along the edge, and you can see that that just really kind of helps to give you the feel that we're going for, that wintry sparkle feel. That looks pretty good. Without really having to put too much glitter in your scene, you can just kind of convey that sense from the exterior here. I'm really liking that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some little snowflakes around the rest of this. I probably could have done that before I did the glitter. So I have this winter stencil, and this is by Memory Box. And I'm just going to end up stenciling some random snowflakes here. So we'll just get that there. Okay, so I have my mini sponge tool here, and I have this Illuminate ink pad, which is kind of like a glittery luminescent pad that Stampin' Up had at one time. I don't know if they still have it or not. And I'm just going to kind of pounce my ink through my stencil onto my project. Now because my greeting is actually a die cut, I'm not going to need to worry too much about leaving a space here. I can put that right over the snowflakes. Now this ink is kind of like a pigment ink. It's kind of thick. It's not like a dye-based ink. And this is a fun stencil. You can see here that's just really adding. And you know what? I was not careful enough and I went over the edge. I didn't really think about that. So let's see if we can't remove some of that a little bit here. Since it is a pigment ink, just kind of burnish it into the background here a little. And then we'll add some other snowflakes here. I'm usually always so careful to mask stuff off, but got a little excited there. It happens. And this is just a really nice subtle touch to this card. So we have that kind of sparkly sheen from that stencil. And I think I'm just going to add just a little tiny something here. Just a partial snowflake. Perfect. I had a little gap there, so I just added that one little snowflake. But I love how this looks. This is so pretty, the shimmer and sparkle to this. I'm hoping you can see that. You can really see the glitter and the real subtlety from the ink pad. Now, being that this is kind of like a pigment ink, you could always run a little glitter over that and it would probably stick to it, but I think I'd like to keep it just a little bit more on the muted side. So I will just let that dry on its own. First, what we're going to do is we are going to actually adhere this to our scene. We're not going to pop this up. We're going to pop it up eventually, but this part we're going to actually glue to here. So I have that there. So I'm going to end up adding glue to the back side of my snowflake first. Liquid glue kind of helps you get into the little crevices here, but we want to be careful because we don't want that to ooze out into our scene for a couple reasons. One, this glue is kind of wet, so I'm just going to use my nozzle to kind of spread it because I definitely want it to stick all the way to the edge, but I don't want it to kind of be so much that when you press it down, it'll ooze out. You don't want that because you won't really be able to hide that. So we'll just kind of add a little bit of glue here around our snowflake, and then we'll come back in with our nozzle just to kind of spread it around. Okay, so now that we have that there, we're just going to add a little bit of extra glue here just to make sure that it holds on to the rest of our scene. And be careful that you don't have any glue on your fingers. And we're going to want this to grab the edge here. So we'll place that down first. Because it's glue, we can kind of move it around if we need to. So we'll just slightly move that all the way to the edge. Kind of press that down. And to press it down, I'm just going to flip it over. And that worked really well. So now we have it. It's just ever so slightly shy of the edge, which works just fine. Get a new piece here. You got to remember that this is still a little wet here. So now we're going to raise this entire surface up and place that onto our base. So now that we have these pieces, rather than using something like Stampin' Dimensionals or foam tape, I have a piece of fun foam that's cut out, and this is just such a large scene, and I don't want this to get crushed when it goes through the stamping machines and everything in the mail. So I'm going to end up gluing this to the back side right here, and this way it will just help ensure that this complete scene stays lifted up onto the card base. So we'll go ahead and glue that to the front and then to the back onto the base. Just make sure that your card is opening the right way, and I'd like a top folding card. And then for our greeting, I've gone ahead and cut out the word joy. Now I've cut it out 3 times. Once in this glimmer paper, this sparkly kind of just glitter paper, and then twice out of some navy cardstock. And I'm going to glue these layers to each other and then glue this to there. Okay, so I've glued these two already to each other, so now I'm just going to go ahead and add a little more glue to this top piece, and I've already glued the other pieces together. The purpose of this is really just to be able to have that shadow. So I'm taking my quick sticks tool, grabbing my oi here, and just laying that on top. And I'm just going to press that down, allow that to dry. Now it's important when you cut out your greeting here, don't forget this little tiny circle that's the top of the J. Okay, so now what we'll do, we'll end up attaching this to our card, but what's so great about this is, and this is how you do those inlaid die cuts, how you can have different pieces raised up from your card. But what this really does is it gives that shadow underneath, and that's going to help to differentiate this from the rest of the base there. So now we'll end up gluing the whole thing together. So here you see I'm using the reverse tweezers to help hold my word in place while I add the adhesive to the reverse side. We're using some of the liquid glue, and the nice part about this die is it is a little thicker in certain areas. It's not super skinny all throughout the entire die, which gives us an opportunity to put some adhesive down in certain spots and then use the nozzle to kind of spread it around. You want to get it coated pretty well so that it doesn't come off. And then I'm going to use a quick sticks tool to just kind of help assist me in placement on my card. So I'm going to put it down on one side, let go with the reverse tweezers, and then kind of position it in place. Thanks for hanging with me till the end. I hope you enjoyed learning how to create a wintry scene using some Stampscapes stamps. And I think there are lots of great little tips along the way. And stick around because we have some great close-ups right here. And if you like this video, definitely give me a thumbs up. Definitely visit the blog. You'll see a supply list there. And you can also subscribe to our Creative Tips e-letter. So I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Bye-bye.